All right, so I'm going to do a quick tutorial on making custom hair textures, alpha maps, diffuse, normal map. It has all the, great map, output maps with the hair tools, baking. So you're actually going to just open up like any Blender document, just a new one, and click on the hair tools tab, and then click on open baking scene, and then hit OK. Just make sure that before you hit OK that you save anything that you were working on, because otherwise it will replace it. So we're going to first delete all of the stuff that is default in here. So we're going to go ahead and delete all of these. Make sure you keep everything else. I can probably delete that. Or wait. Okay. I'm going to go over into your 3D view, and we're going to hit Shift A to open up a plane. Let me see if I can get screencast keys to work. Okay, so you want to take your plane. Oops, make it smaller. It's under in view here, because this is your camera. This is what you're going to be baking. And then I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I like to widen it up a little bit. And then something that I just kind of figured out is to kind of rotate it a little bit. Otherwise your roots are really like dense. I can't remember which way to rotate it. I believe it's this way. We're just going to try this. We can always change it a little bit. And then for your baking size, your like scene baking size, I usually like to do 2048 by 4090. No, I'm sorry, 4096 by 2048. Because then you can have more hair strands. Because I usually do quite a few layers. But it's totally a personal preference. And then you're going to go ahead and take your plane, and we're going to add particle system. And we're going to go ahead and click on hair. And we're going to, of course, change the length because it's way too long. And segments, I'm going to change that to 7. Strand steps, I'm going to change it to 3. We're going to interpolate. Oh, of course, number, we're actually going to change this to 5. So we're going to, let's see, you'll see. We're going to go down to the roughness area where there's like uniform size, endpoint, shape, random size, threshold. And we're going to play around with the settings. We'll zoom in on this. So we're going to play around with this. Just kind of play around with it until you get your, just what you're looking for. All right, I'm speeding through this here, but I'm just going to kind of change the settings around. You can do a screen capture or copy it. I'm doing 100 for my display amount and render amount because I want it to be pretty opaque. And I'm changing the length a little bit here. To see what it looks like with color wise, you can go into cycles render and then click on diffuse. Cycles, we can see this color here that I got, which is it's pretty realistic. It has a lot of different colors to it. Random in here. If you want, once it loads, it looks pretty good. There's a lot of different variety of color. So if I open up my shading scene, I got the free hair shader off of the internet. I will post the link in the description. It's on Gumroad, but it is free, and there's a tutorial for that specific hair shader, which I would definitely recommend watching because I'm not going to get too in-depth here. But what I did was, and I'm still working on figuring this out. There's a lot of options, and sometimes you don't notice much of a difference. So just play around with it. For the base color, I actually brought in hair color, but there's just some natural hair colors. So I actually input those into these slots. So this one, I believe I just did the blondest one, I believe. And here is the base, and then you can change the weight around. Melanin, if I change this all the way up, you can see how dark it is. Like it's really red. Well, it's the redness, sorry. Melanin, if I bring it all the way down, it's going to be, there's like white in there. And it just kind of gives pigmentation to the hair. Randomize melanin, or it's going to just randomize all the different colors in there. So that I always recommend to have this all the way up to give it that variety. Otherwise, if you turn it down, you can see it's pretty much all just one color and it's kind of boring and plain. So always have that all the way up. Scale I just usually leave right in the middle. That just kind of changes the, see how it's like really chunky. So if you want more of a chunky look, definitely do that, but I just leave it about right in the middle there. Randomize weight. Oh, I'm sorry. Leave that about 1. You can have more of like a darker root. This one, as you can see, like the root is a lot more dark. I usually like have it about halfway. Age adds more like gray. Oh, well, it's supposed to, but it doesn't appear it's working right now, so I'm not going to worry about that. I usually go down to, I just kind of inputted some things just to see what would happen. I inputted a few different, that blonde texture into a few spots just to kind of give it more of a blonde look. I was trying to go for blonde, which I'm having a hard time doing this time around. So I end up with this color here, but you can put like a dye color. Where is the dye color? And I just put another blonde in there, which didn't seem to really be working too well. Like I said, you can watch the video tutorial on this specific shader, but this is pretty much what I ended up with, which I'm just going to use for now for the tutorial. I have my first layer texture here, and I feel like I might need to make it a little thicker. So we're going to go back into particles, and we're going to make sure this is 100. Save it again. What if we change this to 200? Yeah, that thing can end up pretty good because you want your base layer to be pretty thick. So we're going to leave that as is, and then I'm going to click on it and we're going to go copy. We're not going to duplicate, we're going to actually copy and paste. So this one is going to be, so I was going to do something a little bit different because there's this really awesome feature now in the new hair tools where, I don't know how to explain it, but you can watch the tutorial or you can watch the video about it. This one, the same amount of hair, but I'm going to like change it up a bit because I want to be able to have layer 1 not be so similar on every strand is exactly the same. So I'm going to go ahead and just change this up a little bit. Let me see. So those are my 2 front layers. I probably have room for, we can maybe just do 3 layers in this for this tutorial instead of, I usually have like 5, but I've figured out that I don't need that many. Usually having 2, the first 2 layers are usually pretty opaque. The last one, you can have multiple final layers that are more of like softer and more like flyaway like to give it more the soft look. And you can just kind of stack those up and flip, like change the direction of the hair cards to give it more volume and everything. So we'll try to do that. I have to speed through this last part. I started having some audio issues with my video for some reason. The audio was all just not in the right place and it was taking too long to fix. So I just decided I'm going to cut that out. and I'm going to speed through. I'm basically just creating some new layers and I'm making them look different, less opaque for the extra, strands. It's not really a whole lot different than what I've done prior. You're just going to play around with it until you get the right setting. You can slow down the YouTube video and you can, watch for all the different options that I use and take some screenshots and just copy what I have if you really want to. Otherwise, you can just play around and kind of get your own numbers going. So yeah, just, keep watching and thanks. Okay, so I have to delete the audio that was originally in the video and kind of do some overdubs here because I was having issues. So basically we're finished. We got all of our textures and now we want to export them. And with hair tools, you can export ambient occlusion, diffuse, opacity, normal map. You can do root map, random ID mask, tangent map, and depth map. We are only going to do ambient occlusion, diffuse, and opacity in normal. So those are the ones we're going to do, and we're going to select them all. And I like to do 4096 by 2048, which I believe I already went over. And make sure you pick your location where you want to save it. I usually do high PNG. Keep in mind it is going to take an awful long time to export all of these maps. So if you want to start doing one at a time, normally it bogs down your computer and you can't really do anything else. You can try, it's totally up to you. It took me quite a while to get all these to export. But once they're exported out, then you're good to go. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you open up the diffuse in Photoshop or your favorite image editing program. Looks pretty good. I don't really have any concerns, but I do tell you, or I'm going to tell you what I do is I put a hair texture in the back of it, like behind it. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to explain, but if you try to use just the alpha map as your texture and your alpha, it's gonna be really transparent. I usually like to use the black and white opacity map and then use this as my diffuse. It just gives it more of a more opaque look, I guess. It's kind of hard to explain. So I add a colored hair texture behind this, like this, because then with the opacity map and if you try to use this, if there's anything it doesn't pick up all the color and then you're going to have like white in there. Yeah, that's going to happen. You can try it. It's totally up to you, but this is my preference. It works pretty well. There really isn't any other editing that you have to do. You can, save this out into your favorite location and you that's pretty much it. So now you got all of your maps, and we are pretty much ready to make some hair. You can now watch the other video, or if you go back and forth to the other videos. So thank you for watching.